A pleasure to me all at last, and welcome back to Nerf Secrets Revealed Aftersought. I'm pretty humble that with all these unboxing videos that have been going around based on new Nerf blasters, who would have thought I'd ever be able to get my hands on a blaster pack? This is basically from the new Super lineup, which includes, get this, its own color variation of the Spectra Rev 5. It's a classic end strike blaster that was a bit of a belated release. As soon as Elite would come around, it technically wouldn't sell all too well, but not to worry, because Nerf would eventually come around and give us an Elite repaint, which I refer to as the Arc Light, because it's an Elite blaster, not an end strike blaster anymore. But here's another one, and I'd say this one here also deserves its own name. Because, well, once again, what kind of name is it? Well, you can't really see right there. Also, Spectra Rev 5. So that's 3 Spectra Rev 5 blasters from 3 different lines and 3 different colorings. I really ought to wonder, who is even in charge of this stuff? Who even has the decency to come in, look at these blasters, and not think things through twice? I don't even want to know at this point who it could be, because it's quite frustrating to say the least. But you know what though? Being able to have an exclusive blaster to a pack like this actually seems like a lot of fun, you know? It might as well be like one of those scavenger hunts that you might never have gotten to do when you were a kid. So in this case, what we're going to do here is get this whole thing unboxed, because it's not just with this Spectra recoloring, but it also, in fact, comes with its own Warden. Yeah, if you remember that. I've talked about it before, but you know what? I'd say it's time that we do these things justice. All right, here we go. This is basically the Spectra Rev 5 Superized Color Edition, which also came with its own Warden blaster. And of course, like I said, I've had my own entire video of Aftersought based on this exact blaster. So, sorry to say, but it ain't getting re-reviewed. So, we're going to be focusing specifically on this. And I suppose that while I was doing the unboxing, I was able to come up with a great name for this. The Destroyer Rev 5. And so, that's basically what this will be. The Super Destroyer Rev 5 is basically, like I've said, a colorized variation of the Spectra Rev 5, which I'd say in contrast to this, I don't know, it doesn't really feel that much better, but it does seem that even with its inclusion of the original attachments that the Spectra Rev 5, as well as the Elite variation, the Arc Lights, like I said, have both included, it's nice for them to be able to recreate those famous attachments that were exclusive to this blaster. But I honestly feel like it would have been a better idea that if they would have included their own attachments, like brand new ones for this blaster. Like if basically we were able to get ourselves an Echo CS10, which itself was modeled after the Delta Trooper CS10, then well, I suppose that this could have at least deserved similar treatment of having a different design and attachments and whatnot. But no, they just went specifically with a recolorization of the same exact blaster. And in case you're wondering about its overall functionality, then well, it basically is like this. You have an orange button here that you use to basically eject a 5-round cylinder, which does come out pretty well. You can fit about 1, 2, 3, 4 probably without having to turn it very much. Then it goes right back in like so, nice and snugly, as opposed to the actual Spectra Rev 5 or its Elite counterpart, the Arc Light. And like any of those, it has slide action to prime the blaster. Oh man, that one shot pretty far. Let's try that again. Oh boy. Wow. What a surprise. I don't know if you probably saw that, but Well, it does seem that this blaster can shoot even farther than the other two. Wow. Oh man, where has this been? Where has this kind of blaster been for a while? I mean, since it got its own Elite recoloring in 2013, it really is quite a desire. But you know what though? I like it. Much like the Spectre and Arc Lights, it does have its own collapsible stock, which can also be detached. Yeah, it does seem that these parts are going to be pretty stiff for the most part, mostly because they're brand new, fresh out of the box. So that might be a good thing on all ends. Same thing goes with this barrel. Yeah. Also fits pretty snugly, even though it feels pretty jiggly in some ways. But I guess with that in mind, that's all 5 darts that I was able to put into this. Although, you know, much like with another blaster that I unboxed on camera here in Aftersought, known as the Stratobow, this came with a ton of darts. But why don't we skip all that? Because this is amazing as it is. This thing can fire so much farther than the other 2 blasters of this same exact design. So I guess what we're gonna do, we're just gonna go ahead and skip to the Invisibility integration. Alright, so let's see how well this does. I guess I'll collapse the stock just so we can get a better viewpoint here. And go. Huh. I guess that does pretty well in its own unique way. And so maybe what we're looking forward to doing at this point is just see how far we can possibly take this. So there's a ton of blasters I still have yet to put together, if you will. So overall, if I have to lay anything down on the Destroyer Rev 5, it's, for one, it's a pretty nice recolorization of the Spectre Rev 5 or Arc Lights. I really do like this usage of cerulean blue with gunmetal gray, orange, and ghost white. It's quite a nice contrast in and of itself. It tends to feel a bit futuristic even. As for the attachments, well, they're a bit self-explanatory. They work the same exact way as any of the other variations of these attachments seen on the other blasters of this exact design, of course. Spectre Fever in the same way as what we've seen with Alpha Trooper Fever, Nightfinder Fever, Recon Fever, Raider Fever, and pretty much every other known blaster that has gotten multiple redesigns over the years. I'd say this one is the best one of the Spectre family so far. The Destroyer Rev 5 easily gets way better ranges than the other 2. In addition to its awesome color scheme and surprisingly snug attachments. Given that it's out of the box, I'd say it will last a while before eventually these things start to feel loose and whatnot. So, to cap things off, my final scoring for this blaster, the Destroyer Rev 5, is going to be a 7.9 out of 10.1. And, of course, I guess what we can do is see how this new Warden blaster does in comparison to the other Warden that I had before I sold it off because of how defective it was. Well,